Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. These plants are queuing up to get out the door and get under the hedge. So, failures. Cattleya, Cattleya, oh my sad little Oncidium. Another Cattleya on the mount. That poor little Paphiopedilum that got some sort of crown rot. An ex-Disa, disintegrated. A Masdevallia that I'm fed up with looking at. And two Miltoniopsis. All that lot are for the chop. But I don't want to give them the chop yet because I'm about to make a mess. I'm going to have a go at repotting that thing and I'm going to do something with this Bulbophyllum. So a mess will be made, and in part of the clearing up the mess we can get rid of them plants once and for all. Fed up with looking at them. Right, let's give this lot a go. I'll have to hoik the tripod out and get my stuff ready, and it's getting late in the day and the sun's coming round. If that sun comes in this window while I'm filming, there might be a flare on the lens. We'll see how we go. Okay, I'm going to do this in bits and bobs and probably have clear up stages and washing plant stages, and the light's going to go, so I am going to get a bit of a move on. Yeah, pop up. I haven't practiced saying it yet. I just want this out. I want to see what I've got in here. Right, chunky bark for cropping. Right, the moss isn't compacted and it's relatively fresh. This are good. This is a weird shaped plant. This is probably what the vendor was worried about. Or was she worried about the fact that she's put two plants in one pot? That's a little bit naughty. It might be that it was actually joined on, but irrespective, you know, I wasn't to know that, and two plants in one pot, that's how it's going to stay, although it's probably going to be mounted, just looking at what we've got here. I'm going to have to give this a wash, but we've got some good healthy roots here. Good job I didn't take that out of the pot in the unboxing video. I may have had a little bit more of a concern. But I've got such good plants from that vendor, I still am not prepared to have a go about it, even though it looks like we've got two plants. Now it may be that it was one plant, and trying to get the weird shape into this pot, it turned into two. I've done that myself. Anyway, that is a plant. It's got good roots, and on a mount that's bendy enough to actually tie round closer in, and it's got some roots pushing out. So plant number one. Now what have we got here then? This will have to be classed as plant number two, obviously. Again, got some good roots here. I've got some yellowing at the base of that bulb and some yellowing at the base of that bulb. Hopefully that is nothing more than the fact it was taken away from the light and hidden away in the moss and isn't any form of rot or anything. Okay, what have we got? Are those bits separate? Yeah, they are. So there we go. Therein lies the problem, I think. Yeah, that I don't think is joined on any sense. So that's going to end up being a separate bit, and that's going to end up being a separate bit. This is probably the original seedling here. Yeah, and that bit's broken as well. I know how this has happened. This was forced in that pot. So that bit can, I was going to say that bit can come off. It has. Okay, that leaves me two bits. There's a break in the rhizome. There's no point in them staying together. That's got roots that will push on, and hopefully we'll get a new growth. That same sort of thing. Got roots, got a bit of a rhizome, and should push a new growth. And then this bit, which is the strongest bulb, again, that's the extension that grew. Something obviously grew off of there and didn't make it, or got broken off. Okay, and then this one is pushing on out there, and it's flexible enough that I can bend it round and join it into a mount. So we're going to end up with something, you know, along those lines on a mount. Now, okay, it's separate plants, but as soon as they start pushing new growths individually, it's all going to look like one anyway. Okay, so that's that one. I did wonder why the vendor was a bit worried about that. Now I can see why. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Okay, right, I'll go and get some bits and pieces and we'll do that one. Okay, let's give this a go. I found a gnarly piece of bark. It's a bit of a flaky piece actually. It's one of my older pieces, but it's got some crevices in, nice places for roots to get. And I've already had a think rather than think out loud. The hook's going up the narrow end. That's my sharpened screwdriver. It doesn't act as a screwdriver anymore, it acts as a blade effectively. So I've got sharpened. And a bit of my bonsai wire if you want to go through the hole, which would be good. I'll make this long and keep it straight for now, simply because I don't know how long a hook I actually want. I mean, that's all I do, is I just bend it round to hold it in place and then trim off ends later and stand that upright. Okay, and then I can add my hook at whatever point I want, depending on how long I actually want this. Some of that often depends on how far up the leaves stick up. Okay, now what I'm left with, I'm not going to bother mounting that. That feels a little bit desiccated and the leaf is starting to desiccate. I think that's where that rhizome was actually separated. So that can go, leaving me two bits with the long bit. So those are the three elements of the plant that I'm going to mount. That's got some good roots on. It does need a new growth, but hopefully it will push that out. A new growth could come here, although that is relatively a new growth. I could get one from here. I don't know yet. Right, let's get some moss on. Somewhere for it to live, or somewhere for it to be, as I like to say. Now, until I sort out what I'm going to do, that bit's going to go there. I've already made my mind up. And if I tie that round like that, yeah, then if a new growth comes out of there, it can head up the mount, and then that lends itself to going in that bit there. So that gives me like 3 start points. Okay, so that's how it's going to go. But I'm going to have to get this bit tied in and still before I try and put that other piece on, or it's just going to all spring off. That's just what's going to happen. So we'll put some moss over the top of the bigger section of roots so that I can tie that in. Now, I've seen quite a few Bulbophyllums with a fair few aerial roots, so I'm going to leave that a little airy around that root section and not squash it all in and bury it. Ugh, soggy hands. Right, let's get something to tie with. A nice long bit. I hate running out of this stuff halfway round and having to put a join in it. It just doesn't work very well. Oh, come on, don't mess me about. There we go. So that's that. The last time I did this, I had a complete mind blank and couldn't remember how the hell to tie a slip knot. Hopefully we won't get that problem this time. There we go. I always leave a long end on my slip knot because that's the bit I'll be coming back to in a minute to tie on to. So you know, it gives me a base point to get to in a minute. Okay, right, first loop won't be a problem because that's just going to go around that piece of that plant. So we'll come up from underneath this time. Sometimes it's from the top, it depends where I'm going. But I need to grab hold of that piece firmly before I do anything else. So let's get that bit done first. Grab a hold. There we go. So now that I've got that piece reasonably firm, this piece can come into the next loop, and I want that the base of that bulb about there. So I'm going to put a piece over the rhizome, the bendy bit, first. Come back over the piece I've just already done. Yeah, and then on the second pass round I can set the bulb at the point I want it, which is there, and hopefully it'll stay there. Yeah, I might have to put a loop round that, that'll be a first. I'll sort that out in a minute. I need to get the 3 in place first. So that's 2 of them, that's sort of where I want them. And the third one, I want to go in there, sort of like that. Yep, I've got a little bit of moss over the top of that. Yeah, that bendy rhizome is going to be a problem, I can see it. I don't want to tie it in yet. And I'm going to have to go under that one or we'll garrot the flipping thing. Like a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Okay, that's that one got. I'll put a second one around that one. That's why I always have a long piece. I never know in advance how many times I'm going to go round. I want that a bit higher so you can come back and have another go. I need that more up there. That's better. That'll hold that in place better. Now I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get that to stay upright without pinching it really tight. Maybe I'll have to put up with it a bit looser than I would like. It's either that or I've got to put a loop around it. I'm going to try a loop. I wouldn't normally do this because it has the potential to cut in if it's too tight. But it's the only way I'm going to get it to stand up. I won't pull that loop tight, but I just need it to be more upright than it is. Yeah, okay, it's a bit wobbly. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. It is an awkward shaped piece. So that's about as good as it's going to get. And what I'll actually do is I'll, as time goes on and that starts pushing some roots out, I'll find a way of pinning that back a little bit. Perhaps, maybe I won't bother. It'll tie itself in eventually anyway. Plants have a habit of grabbing on. It's what they do in nature. It's the first job they do. There's a theory. When a plant's young, where does it put the first roots? Does it push them straight into becoming attached? Does it chuck them out in the air? Or is it entirely random? And it pushes roots out in all directions with the hope that it'll hit something. I think it's a little bit more along the random lines myself. Yeah, I don't think plants are that clever that it can actually work out. So if roots go out in all directions, some of them are going to be able to grab hold of something. Some of them may well end up aerial roots, and it just does its thing along those lines. That's my theory anyway. I think that's the way a plant would work. It would be more random. Hello cat, you do exist. Okay, that's not as tight back in there as I would like, but roots have got somewhere to go. That one's nice and firm. Yeah, that one's okay. What I will do is just bring some of that moss up round there and tuck it under that tie so that it's on the base of that pseudo bulb. That'll encourage some roots to come out. When they come out, I'll deal with them, but let's get them to come out first. Okay, so that's him. That's the job. I've got another straggly bit there. Let's tuck that bit up under there. It's no good out. Oh, actually, it's a lumpy bit. You do get them sometimes. It's almost like a flower head. Tuck that bit up under there so that all the moss can be of use. So that's him. Now let's just hope that the yellowing on those pseudo bulbs is nothing more than lack of chlorophyll due to being buried in the moss, and they will green up. Okay, we'll see how we get on with that. Right, I'm going to get the other one out of the pot, and anyone that's squeamish, I suggest you move away, because I've got a feeling I have life forms in this big pot over here, and anything I see moving is going to get squashed there and then, and it'll be on film. So if you don't like that sort of thing, don't watch. Right, let's move on. I'm just going to shut down for a minute. That's the door. Right, let's see what we got. Oh, well, what we do have is a flipping good root system. Bonus. And whatever those little creepy crawlies were, I see none yet. But we haven't started digging yet, have we? I'd love to find one so that I can show you. Well, this is it's virtually in peat. Now, it's not going to go back in that, because that's not how I would grow. And although this might be one of those epiphytes that, you know, does grow in an awful lot of leaf litter, if you can see that's incredibly wet. Okay, I did water it today, but that's really soggy stuff. That would hold so much water, and it's not going back in that. Well, firstly, I haven't got any of that because I don't use it, but look at it. Look, hear it? Orchids should not be in that sort of thing, or not this type of orchid. That might be wonderful for a cymbidium, some others perhaps, but not for an epiphyte. Right. The rest of that's coming off under the tap. That's a good root system. Do you know, I don't see any dead roots in there, only live ones. How often does that happen? Of course, some long ones too. Find a suitable size pot, that might be fun. I'm having to hold this carefully because there's so many new growths on here. I would like to end up with the same number of new growths at the end as I started with. So that can go in the sink. That's going to have a good wash off. Now let's have a dig round in here and see what we can see. I'd love to find one of these things. To tell you the truth, the best description I could say, you know what sort of centipedes look like? Lots of legs. Or even perhaps a caterpillar. But lots of legs anyway. Not your normal six-legged job. Lots of legs. And it was long and thin and a whitish colour. By long, I mean about a centimetre. So very visible. And it may be that the three that I found are the three that there were, and there aren't any more. But there's some very strange stuff in here. Yeah. Well, I can't see any life forms in here. So you squeamish people can come back now. There's going to be no squishing and crunching of wildlife. No wildlife was harmed in the making of this video. Yet. I'm still looking. No, I can't see anything. I've got dirty hands. Still, that's what taps and towels are for. I never worry about stuff on my hands. Right, I've got a few bits and bobs that can all get wrapped up together. That's going to have to go under the sink. Can't even turn the camera off with hands that dirty. And then, ooh. Right, I've just had a delivery from Postman Pat. My new 1 litre bottle of hydrogen peroxide's actually turned up, which is a flipping good job because that's a big plant and a big root system, and it needs that in case I've missed any wildlife. Yeah, so I'm going to have a clear up, do the plant, do the spraying and do all that, and then we'll come back and see what we've got left, and I'll have selected a pot and all that sort of stuff. And then I need to choose what sort of media I'm going to use. That's why I haven't got any out yet, because I didn't know. I'll be back soon. I'll be back. You've all missed the party. Party started that long ago. I don't need that at the moment. That's for in a minute. I just wanted to taste. Right, plant. I will be using some big sponge rock. Can't get that in the UK. I've never found it in Europe either. That came from the US of A via a subscriber. Appreciated. That'll get used. I'm using my smallest grade bark. Yeah, I've got a lot of it because it's going in a big pot. So we'll have some of that. I haven't mixed it up yet. Now, this was a free gift, and this is chunky bark. But I don't know the quality of that chunky bark. But what I do know is that it's really good at crocking the bottom of a pot to make sure any water can get out. So that's what that's for. It's quite dusty actually, but as I water that'll get washed out. No biggie. Right, now logic first, plant. It's had a good rinse. It's been sprayed with the H2O2, and it must be Let's Fall Apart Day. That is only just hanging together as a single plant, but I'm going to keep it together as a single plant. Yeah, it is growing in a way that is aiming at a specimen plant. If I split it in two, I've got two smaller plants. One of them will be good because it's got 4 new growths on, but the other one would only have 2 new growths and a tiny little one, so it wouldn't be such a good plant on its own. But in the same pot, it's a good plant, so it's going to stay together. But analysis, we've got quite thin roots, but not wispy roots. But we haven't got thick, chunky roots, yeah? It's like bad hair day when I get up in the morning. But what we do have is very long roots, yeah? And what was it in? That's a Cymbidium pot. That's a deep pot. And obviously it used it. So it likes to push its roots down deep. Whether it liked being in what it was in or not is irrelevant. The roots did well in it. And that tells me that it doesn't want a light, open, airy mix. Yeah? It needs a dense mix. It was happy in that pot. Yeah? So I'm going to try and replicate that with what I've got without effectively using peat. I'm going to disagree with anybody using true peat anyway. Depletes our environment. But what I'm going to use is my smallest grade bark, a reasonable bit of moss in there, and some sponge rock, giant perlite, for some air. Yeah? So that's what I'm going to use. And I started looking at pots and I thought, nah. And my next pot up is huge. It's more like a bucket. Whereas it came out of that pot and it was doing okay in that size pot. Now, although I'd prefer a clear pot because I like to see what's going on, that weighs next to nothing. Yeah? So once I've actually filled this up and watered it, I'll know how much it weighs. This bark dries incredibly fast when it's new. So in a few days' time I'll be able to re-weigh the pot in my hands and think, right, that's sort of what it weighs like when it's getting dry. I remember how heavy it was when it was wet. I can then judge without being able to see in the pot. I'm getting better at that. Time goes on. Okay, right. Maybe some help. Last time I bought hydrogen peroxide, I got that sort of stuff. Yeah? And it looks like the sort of thing a doctor or a nurse would have. You know, it's even got a picture of somebody getting their hand dabbed with it. But it says hydrogen peroxide solution 3%. And it's got the cross on it, which in this country means pharmacy or, you know, that sort of thing, where you get your medicines. Now the new stuff I've got has got next to nothing on the label. It does say hydrogen peroxide 3%. It says food grade. Well, does that mean you pour it over your food? If anybody can explain if there is any difference between those two, please do so. Because I'm a little concerned that that isn't really what I want. But what I did notice is that type of thing is now missing from eBay. It's gone. So somebody's decided we're not allowed to have that anymore, which is a trifle worrying. Treat us like bloody kids. Anyway, so that's what I've got now. It still says hydrogen peroxide 3%. It's got that food grade on it that the other one didn't. If anybody can explain why I've now got to have that and can't have the other stuff, it would be nice. I just hope it does the same job. That's the important thing, that it actually does its job. Right, let's get mixing. I think I'm going to need quite a bit of that, so we'll put quite a bit in. Let's get some chunky stuff in the bottom. Some nice big bits. You've also got to bear in mind that, that when you've got holes in the bottom of the pot and you've got a really, really fine medium, as you water, a lot of it's going to come out the bottom of the pot, come out the holes. So, a fair bit of chunky stuff in the bottom, the biggest bits right down where the holes are, and a layer. It doesn't need to be too deep, it just needs to allow sediments and things that may get washed down in time to come out of the holes and have a clear pathway. Right, so that's my base. Let's get some moss in there. Now, all I do with my moss is break it up a bit. This is quite long strand moss, and we'll get rid of some of the water because you know me, I like to pot dry. Well, obviously I'm not going to use dry sphagnum because if you get it in mixed up with other things like that and then try and get it wet, a lot of the water will run off and down the sides and your moss just stays dry. So it has to have a little soak first. But yeah, I do like to pot dry. If you think how complex and dense that root system is, I don't want air spaces, not for this plant. I want this media well in there. I want all the roots touching something. Now, if it was a Cattleya, I wouldn't give a monkeys if there was air spaces. In fact, I'd be pleased. Because they like a lot of air around their roots. This doesn't look like that sort of plant. And it was happy in what it was in and growing well. Right, so we have an amount of moss. Until I start stirring, I don't really know whether I don't know, it's a look, it's a feel. It's not something that can be explained how much moss you need, but I know I need some to keep that root ball reasonably moist and not let it dry out too fast. Now that sort of looks okay. When that's in the pot, there'll be bits of moss in places without it being a solid mass. And then for aeration purposes, we chuck some of this stuff in. I don't want too much of this. This is more like a token gesture. Cool, there are some big bits in here, aren't there? Yeah, the stuff you can get in the UK is tiny. And quite honestly, at that size, I'm not sure it actually does much good. Yeah, just some bits, so that every now and again, there's a piece of that which is full of air. Yeah, it's not a piece of rock. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. It is full of air holes. So it allows some air in around the roots. Oh, there are some big bits in there, aren't there? Break them up a bit. There we go. That'll do. I'm happy with that. That'll do. Right, some in the bottom. Cover up that drainage, but I don't want too much because, as I said, this plant obviously was happy with a deep root system, and I want to replicate that deep root system. Now, what I do when I've got a big root system like this is I put it in the pot and I start to turn it. And as I turn it, I lower it and it drags the roots in. Now, okay, it does put a little bit of a twist on them, but that's no big deal. Now, that's going to be the back of the plant. Simply because that's the oldest couple of bulbs there. Yeah, this one, and these two little ones. That's the old part of the plant, and it started shooting out. So, you know what I do? I don't push the back of the plant up to the pot. I push the back of the plant right away from the pot. And then what I can do is wiggle, 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 and get some media down in amongst the roots at what will become the back of the pot. Now this is why I like it dry. It's going straight down in all the little holes and not leaving huge gaps. That's good. Okay, and then once I get up near the top, I can then turn the pot round and push that plant up against all that media. Yeah? Now it is the back of the pot. And now I can start doing the same round here. Most of my new growths are around this side of the plant. This is where I want the space. This is where I want the gaps. And as I said, I don't want loads of air gaps in this root system. I want this media into every little nook and cranny. As I say, I use my finger and the tapping method. And then just keep going. And it's amazing, if you just filled the pot up loosely like that and didn't tap it down, a couple of times after you've watered it, you'd end up with a lot of space at the top of the pot because it would start to settle eventually. And the more you tap, the more you get a gap. When you get a gap, you've got room for more. This is not going to be a bad guess here. That's not bad at all. How are we doing then? Flipping great lump of sponge rock right up against one of those new growths. So we'll have that out. That's just by eye. This is the sort of thing, you know, in a nursery they wouldn't have the time or the patience to be messing about with little niceties like that. There's a couple of bits of sponge rock right next to that new growth. It's quite sharp. It's got quite jagged edges, this sponge rock, so although it's okay in the roots once they stop moving about, it's not so good where there might be a bit of movement with the circulation fans or anything like that. Okay, I think we're sort of there. I only ever press down the sides of a pot. I don't ever press in the middle. I always sort of go along the grounds that as I press down the sides of the pot, the pressure does the job in the middle rather than me. Right, I think we've got a little bit of room there. I don't want too much because, you know, you don't want to bury your pseudo bulbs. They want to be sat very close to the top. That's about it, I think. I knew this was going to be a messy day. Okay, so that's it set up in its nice new pot. Well, not new pot, but replacement media we'll call it, because it's effectively in the same pot, and that's going to allow for a good root run, nice and deep, and not so much of a dramatic change for the plant if you think about it. You know, its root mass is still in the same sort of space. So okay, I'm happy with that. Now all you've got to do is grow and get some blooms on you. Okay, that's it. As I said, that Bulbophyllum wasn't such a good plant after all, but 4 out of 5's not bad off of eBay, and the one that wasn't brilliant is still okay. I'm sure I can grow that on and produce a blooming sized plant. Time will tell. Okay, thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.